we have developed love for the animals. We always say we came in the space of the animals, and we should also appreciate the fact that we can live together.
Yeah, we do see changes. There is a lot of changes, and with a lot of help, I think we can do much better.
Welcome back to Into the Wild's new mini-series for 2025, Journey Back to Namibia. This episode and series has been funded by the UK International Development from the UK government. However, the views expressed do not necessarily reflect the UK government's official policies. We also worked in partnership with NACSO, which stands for the Namibian Association for Community-Based Natural Resource Management Support Organisations, who supported us in getting to and talking with members of the community in the areas we visited. Okay, so on to episode 4 of Journey Back to Namibia, Climate Changes Community. Well, here we are. We are at episode 4, the final episode in the mini-series from Into the Wild, Journey Back to Namibia.
It's quite
How are you
sad.
feeling about that, Nadia?
I feel quite emotional about it.
I do too, and I'm not surprised you do. It's been quite a journey.
I feel like, because just for our listeners, that in terms of prepping for these episodes, we go back and listen to our interviews with people that we met, and yeah, it feels very far away now and quite sad.
That's interesting. It feels far away. For me, it feels very close still. Not
Maybe
saying your
it's
feelings
more.
are
Maybe
wrong.
it's less far away, but more of like I'm really aware of the ending. It feels
okay,
final.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I get that. Well, nerds, welcome to the final episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be a doozy.
It is. It's one that actually, before in the planning of this series, Nadia and I didn't realise that this, I guess, this topic that we're talking about on today's show was really we knew it was gonna play a part, but we thought, I guess, it was gonna play a part throughout the every single episode. But it actually came up, and we thought this warrants its own episode. So far, we've looked at the country of Namibia. We've looked at food security and farming. We've looked at what happens when the rain actually just stops, when rain just doesn't occur, and the emotions and the feelings of that from Namibian communities and perspective. Today, we're looking at, and I've not thought of a punchy way to say this, but we're looking at the impacts on community and community support during a drought or impacts from the climate crisis. So really, this episode's going to have a very strong focus on community.
Yeah, it's right at the heart of it. So I guess let's kick off and like trying to find what community means, because, you know, again, in our planning for this episode, we had this like long reaching kind of spiraling thoughts around community because it's everything and anything. And I'm really trying to pin down and define this very kind of natural, organic, unpin-downable thing.
Unpin-downable?
Well, you know, it's part of my community of words. But like, I guess we talked about community as being a geographical thing. Like, it's like the people who are around you. But it can also be, particularly, I guess, in the culture that we're used to, people have chosen communities, right? They have actually, these are the people, whether it's like artist community or growers or, you know, it's a community to have solidarity around a particular issue. But the thread that seems really strong with that idea of community is that like there is a place to share, and that sharing is reciprocal. You know, it goes backwards and forwards, and it's something that you, I guess, regularly invest in. Yeah. It's not something that you just sign up. It's not like a club you sign up to. A community, you kind of have to keep investing in it. It's like growing a garden.
Because we've spoken about this a lot. Nadia and I, we talk about community a lot on any show that we do for Into the Wild. And we've always gone back and forth going like, we've never actually said to the nerds listening why we talk about community so much, or we haven't really defined it very much. And I think this episode's going to be, you know, a perfect chance to an opportunity to do that. But you are right. But I also think maybe this society and in our culture that we live in, I think maybe people do think they have to sign up to it a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
I do think people do think like to have a community, you have to, you know, like a subscription. Like it is like, okay, well, I'll do that, and I'll do that every Thursday, and that's how I'm in my community because I do that, and those type of things can exist. You have hobbies, or you have, kind of activities that build a community, whether you like run or if you go and play tennis or something like that. But I think more heartful or organic community is really, like you said, a bit like managing a garden. It's like checking in on your neighbour, or being there for your neighbour, or having that communication, or with your friends that, like you and the gang that live up on the Isle of Bute, how I remain in that community just by being annoying on WhatsApp.
Oh, you are the annoying one. Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like, so I think a lot
Everyone
of people
has a role in the community.
Yeah, everyone has a role, and
that.
it's not. Mine's just pissing people off. But yeah, I think it's very. What does it mean to you? Should we define it?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Like, I'm not sure I've ever felt part of a community.
Wow.
Until I moved to where I live now.
Oh, okay. Thank God for that.
And I never understood that it was relevant to me.
Okay.
Because we live in a culture of individualistic thinking, which is like you have your job, your income, your house, you've got money to buy your things, and there you go, done and dusted. So I think, the last 2 generations have probably been able to survive off this idea of like, look after number one, and actually you can provide for yourself completely. We're starting to get to the point now where Cosy lives, of like, actually, we can't just buy what we want.
Sorry, stop.
I know.
I'm sorry. I know we say Cosy lives, but we have a number of people that don't live in England or the UK. And they go, I'm sorry, what does Cosy lives mean?
Well, the cost of living crisis, I guess, which is an atrocious concept. So sorry.
I love millennial or Gen Z abbreviations.
And I guess, so basically, the cost of living in the UK is going up and income isn't going up with it. So, as Ryan was telling me yesterday, a bottle of Heinz ketchup is £4.
For God's sake.
Go on. How much is it in London?
It's true, but I was telling Nadia. I wasn't telling Nadia, I was ranting at Nadia. I think is the true representation of how I was talking. Heinz tomato ketchup, a 500ml bottle, is now nearly £5.
That's insanity.
Now stop and think about that. And I said to Nadia, if we were told 5 years ago that that's how much it was going to cost, we would have done something about that. We would have said, like if we knew food prices would jump to that. Well, no, I'd have said you're lying. No, but if you were told absolutely it's in that year it's going to be that, we'd be like, well, we have to stop food prices getting to that, because that is insane. And I know ketchup's not a necessity. It's, is it? Well, it is in my life, actually.
I have it on.
Everything.
So much stuff that I'm embarrassed to share.
I can't eat Cocoa Pops without Heinz tomato ketchup.
Oh God, you've just made everybody listening feel sick. You couldn't have picked a worse thing. Right, so back to community, I guess.
Oh yeah, away from ketchup. Sorry.
Away from ketchup.
So why are we talking about community? Why are we doing it on this show, and why do we do it on the podcast then?
Well, it's because it's so often overlooked. In Western conservation, in the context of environmentalism, conservation and climate change, it is so often overlooked. The value of people's lives, the quality of life, and communities. People living in places that have been devastated by floods, people who live in places of drought, such as Namibia, people who live alongside wildlife where there is human-wildlife conflict. It is the community that is often so vital on the front line of safeguarding and protecting ecosystems and species.
Yeah.
But also, we seldom tell stories and remind ourselves of the real humanity of what happens when we say climate change is affecting people.
Yeah,
and
right.
I think it's an issue that's so close to mine and Ryan's heart, and so many people, I think so many of our listeners as well, that if we can't value communities of people to the same level as communities of wildlife, first of all, that's just grotesque, but also headline news. Wildlife's never going to thrive and ecosystems aren't going to bounce back if we don't value communities and people.
Yeah. And I think to add to your very good point, Sarah, as well, the other reason why we're doing an episode on this is because during our time in Namibia, and I'm going to introduce a voice very shortly, we had a fair few hours there at this lovely farm where there was a family and neighbouring farms came along, and it was in Angu Conservancy, and it was just gorgeous. And there was this lady called Mimi Vicky, or people call her Aunt Vicky, and we got to speak to her about farming, about her community during the climate crisis as it's increased and during the drought. But Vicky brought up for the first time how it impacts a community, and really, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to take it away from Vicky's voice, but how it splits up a community and divides a bit more. And it's the first time Nadia and I had heard that perspective before. And I think, you know, as powerful as every single chat was, that was one that we really came away. And I remember on the plane back, me and you going, we've got to talk about that. It was very strong. It was very powerful.
Let's listen to Vicky.
So here is Vicky Festus from Angry Conservancy. I just can't wait to listen to this back. It was such a lovely chat. Vicky, thank you so much for having us here. It's actually really lovely to arrive. We've gone to so many places, but it always feels different when you arrive somewhere else.
We got singing.
Yes, yeah. That was the first time. It's just lovely. It's always unique. So I guess it's always nice to start to know a bit about you as a person before we start talking about the area and the people that live here. This is your farm here?
Yes, I live here.
And how long have you been here?
This old man is my father. I grew up as from probably 16 years. When I was 16 years old, I came here. I'm 66, so it's 40 years.
Wow.
So I was here. I used to come during holidays when I was at school. And then I was working also in Windhoek. And after retirement, which is 6 years ago, I came here and I'm a full-time farmer.
Full-time farmer. What did you do in Windhoek?
I was a registered nurse. I was working in the hospital, and then I was a community activist and working in NGOs. And after that, I came here. Yeah.
And how is it to have those kind of jobs and then come back to farm?
Having those, it is. When you are working, you don't think that you will come and sit down here and do nothing.
Yeah.
And when I came here, obviously, I did not sit down and do nothing. People started coming to me, and then they could come with different problems and issues, and then I started helping. And also in the farming, I was new, and my brothers used to help me because it's not easy when you are part-time and full-time. It's a difference. So slowly but surely, I started becoming used to the situation. But obviously, there are also a lot of challenges. When you are not close by, you don't see the challenges.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have problems of people who have to work, who are on and off sometimes and so on. And then comes like this Erongo region, we have a problem of drought.
Yeah.
And there was another year which was even worse than this year. But this year also we are feeling it. Our goats are dying. And just from hunger. Sometimes they get sick. Sometimes we try to give them medicine also, but they still die. Yeah, so it's not so easy, but we are struggling. Sometimes also I think as a culture, we believe that you have to retire and do farming or something, business or whatever where you can live from. So we know that we have to be responsible for our animals because it's for our future and our children's future also.
I'm curious as well because you said, some years are harder, and I know this will be from an ignorant kind of side, but to me maybe a drought with no rain is a drought with no rain. So what is a hard year with no rain?
Why I'm saying there was a year which was harder. Maybe you noticed you didn't even see cows. No cows, no donkeys, no horses. We had all those things. Even our children, we are just showing them the pictures, like the grandchildren. This is a cow, this is a horse. It was so hard that things died. Even the birds, the vultures, they could not even eat that meat. It was worse. You could just look at your cow or so, and you can't do anything. It's just sitting there. It's hungry. Sometimes it was also getting maybe a small one, but no milk. You just look at your things and they are dying. So it was very hard. And like now, we really don't have any cows, horses, and donkeys, a few donkeys. I'm talking now about other people. Ours, we had more than 60 cows. They are gone. They are all gone.
Were you at that time when you had you described coming here when you were 16?
Yeah, that time I was young then.
Can you describe what the farm was like?
If
I was
nice.
walking through the farm with you then, what describe to me?
It was green. There were also wild fruits, which we don't even see anymore. There were cows, a lot of cows we could just, sometimes we even chase them from here around. They just stay there and we know they are there. Then you could hear maybe a donkey even coming, or they are coming to drink water. And then also horses. I used to sit there, then I could see my brothers and other people coming with horses at that time. Proudly, but all those things are gone. And about food, we had food security. I mean, the animals were fed. We could slaughter and eat and sell and get an income and survive from there. But today, all those are gone.
Yeah.
All those are gone.
That sounds like idyllic, like heaven, when you describe it like that.
It was nice. And also, especially Christmas, we knew that all of us have to come here, and then we are celebrating. Big pots used to be cooked and we eat together and so on. All those things are gone. And people also stopped coming, some of them, because they have nothing to come for.
And so the main culprit is the drought.
It's the drought.
Is there anything else other than drought?
We have, like now, unfortunately, when it is dry, even the animals are hungry. Like here we have jackals. There in that corner, you could hear, we are hearing the jackals and the small ones, and they too have to eat. Then they come to our crops.
Right.
And also sometimes you'll just see maybe 2 or 3 things of yours was eaten up by the jackals. And there is also a hyena. Usually we don't see them, but since it's so dry, they also come to houses. And things that we knew that they only stay in the field are coming to our houses closer. Because at least they can see chicken or maybe, something to eat, looking for something to eat. And that is the situation now, unfortunately.
How does the perception with wildlife change there? Because, I guess when you were talking about the farmer when you were 16, and like Nadia said, it felt like heaven. And like you said, those animals were around and there.
Yeah.
But now those animals are coming closer and having an impact on your farm. How does the relationship with those animals change now?
I mean, to be honest, we also feel pity for the animals. We even say in our discussions, maybe the Conservancy must buy some fodder and drop it in the field so that the things have something to eat. Because otherwise we are losing out. And even those things are just coming because of the hunger. Okay, even those days, the jackals and so on, maybe sometimes they used to also bite our animals or so, something like that. But it is a problem. I mean, as a person who has been on the farm, we have developed love for the animals. We always say we came in the space of the animals, and we should also appreciate the fact that we can live together. But now they are eating, they're also biting our things, but we feel pity for them because there is nothing we can do, because even us, we are suffering.
And there's another thing I wanted to ask, is when you said, like, Christmases you used to gather, and I'm sure on many other occasions you used to gather when there was reason to gather.
Yeah.
So how does something like a drought and, the lack of food security, how does that affect a community? Like, that must, if it stops those gatherings, does that have an impact on the relationships within the community? Or do you find it still stays strong?
No, it doesn't stay. We are missing those gatherings and coming together and so on. And also, the opportunities. Somebody even asked, when last did we have a family reunion here? Yeah. And then we said 2 years ago, but not everybody come. So, we are no more looking forward to, and sometimes we can't even afford to entertain people, because when they come to the farm, they knew they are coming to eat meat. Yeah. Now there is no meat, they have to buy meat and come with meat. Yeah.
So it's almost like the price has gone up just to gather.
It's going up. And basically, we are missing what the situation that we were used to. Farm, I'm going to eat meat. That was all. Even if you just come to visit month end or whatever, you have to go back with meat, with carcass or whatever. Yeah. Now we are saying, just look at them, how they look like. And I think it is really impacting also the family life and the social life.
Yeah. The social life is, it's one of those like impacts that people don't think about, when you think about drought.
Yeah.
I think also as well, I mean, if we relate this back to our country, we have other pressures that stop us doing things, whether it's seeing friends, seeing family. But the one thing we don't have is the distance between each other. We live very close near people, so we can still see people. We might not gather for big occasions or parties or stuff.
But it's always around food, Ryan.
It's always around food.
Food always has a place in community,
Absolutely.
Like that middle bit.
But then when you have the distance between each other, it makes that so much harder at that point to do it anyway. There was always that effort to travel to see each other. And
I think the African culture, we also love to be together. We love to be together, to sit around the fire, and sometimes also there was a time, I don't know why we don't, maybe also because of all these problems, we also always had also a soccer tournament, December, and everybody is here and so on and so forth. All those things are, slowly but surely going down.
God, that's so sad to hear.
Yeah.
And so given, this is the hard question, I guess, climate change is changing.
Yeah.
So rain's coming less and less.
Less and less.
That's not something we can just change now. What else could be done? What could maybe government do?
When we talk about the government is giving us basic food, I should say. For example, we have noticed this month, now we are getting monthly. Those days we used to get probably in an interval of 4 months or something like that. A fish, maybe 4 fish cans and cooking oil and maize meal. Maize meal is our staple food. But now we have noticed that at least maybe every month or after 6 weeks, we are also receiving that. However, we also at our houses, as much as the water crisis is there and it is a problem, we also are having small gardens, home backyard gardens, for some veggies and so on, just to supplement whatever we are getting. Also, the Conservancy helped us quite a lot with our water problems. Yeah, it's helping us, but we have also still a problem because of the weather. The Conservancy is coming to clean maybe our boreholes, but then because of the drought, the water is not there. So it's also a loss. They have to pay probably a 30,000 or whatever to clean, and only to discover that there is no more water. Yeah. So new boreholes maybe also we can maybe do, but we don't know. Yeah, but people know they are testing, and then maybe when they get water they are. But that is also a lot of money. I think also if we can also be assisted with new boreholes, it will also help us. But it's very much costly.
And then I think, would you make more of that shift to growing vegetables and things like that? Yeah. If you could access the water regularly from the borehole.
Then we can probably survive, in that way.
We have seen some examples of more vegetable growing as we've been driving around.
Okay.
We've seen more of it happening. Vicky, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's been lovely to chat and hear your perspective.
Wow.
Oh, I know.
She's
God,
so
and do you know what? I've kept in touch with Vicky since we've been back.
Ryan's been WhatsApping her.
I genuinely have. I really enjoyed keeping in touch with her. She's such a joy to hear from, and I'll share at the end of this episode some news that she gave us. But it was just so nice, and I think we felt welcome everywhere we went. But we felt Aunt Vicky just has this, oh my God, this overwhelming kind of feeling of welcome and kind of, she took us in. I felt like, Nadia, and I know you're going to say that, right, I do this everywhere I go, but I felt like if I went back, Vicky would be like, come stay here.
She'd put you up. I think she would put you up, yeah.
But that's what I loved about it, and that in itself was why I've kept in touch, and that's how community grows, right? You go, you're welcoming, you're here, you can come here whenever you want. And what I again liked about our chat with Vicky is kind of how her life, her experience has changed. She worked in the capital in Windhoek, but when needs must, Vicky went back to her community because that's what was needed.
That's something that we've heard a few stories. That's quite a culturally normal. Well, yeah.
It's the expected thing to happen.
Pretty amazing.
She had family members that needed care. She was able to give that. She's gone back to her farm and she's caring. And
the thing about food, right? Sharing food, and how that fragments communities, not being able to, when times are hard, you don't do the celebration things.
Yeah.
That's when, the songs that you sing together don't get sung. The stories that have been told from generation to generation about old granddad, whoever, they stop getting told. The link to the past and the link to culture and land, these things stop. And these are vital for community. The cohesion, for people to cooperate and care and love for one another. People don't just do it. They do it because last year you shared a meal with them and had a great time. Yeah. And I'm so much aware of that within my learning and understanding of what community is where I live, like we need each other.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Like, I mean, again, I will say this from a, non-geographical perspective, and probably being a little bit personal on the show, but when I've needed you or someone like Lucy, like, you're there.
Yeah.
And it's such a support. If I'm, you've seen me at worst, which is not pretty. Still above average, but it's not pretty.
It's not. No, this is why I didn't video call when you needed me most.
But you were there, and it's...
What would you have done without that?
Exactly, when that's removed, and I think it's important to privilege check right now is that people that we met with, Vicky, her community, don't have the same tech that we have to be able to keep in touch with communities or... virtually gather, I guess, in the same way we could. You look at COVID-19, we could gather with families on Zoom, which was not the same, but it was still there. It was still support. There was some sort of connection.
It felt powerful at the time. It
felt powerful, and it created a new kind of, I guess, community structure. There are lots of people around the world, millions of people around the world, billions maybe, up and over, that don't have access to that.
Yeah.
So when it's removed, when it's physically removed, it's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. I've probably spoken about this before, but it's the colonial project. When the empire went to countries, the first thing that they would do to break the spirit was to take away that sense of community, the ability for a culture and a people to practice traditions, sing traditional songs, wear traditional dress. Those things were stopped straight away because they give strength to people.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Scotland, when England colonized Scotland, one of the first things that they did was the people that they killed or targeted were the storytellers. Yeah. First, above other people in the community. Such is the strength of gathering and sharing to bond a people, to support one another. And so when we talk flippantly about climate change and we're like, it's affecting people, climate change, it means the crops aren't growing, and it means that, there are deep human stories that sit behind all of these. Never mind are people getting displaced, which is tragic. Of course it's tragic. But these kind of slow burn fragmentations of a people in a community, obviously we've spoken before in the food and farming episode about how government does supply food. There's food there. There are calories. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's this slow, destruction or erosion of that community cohesion, which me and Ryan just couldn't stop thinking about.
No, absolutely. And I think actually you touching on that point there, and I know Vicky brought that up about kind of what governments and conservancies can do to support. So this is probably a good time to bring in our other voice that we spoke with on this day, which is a lady called Anna. Anna is a Conservancy committee member for Angu Conservancy, which is made up of 2 conservancies, but she will explain all that. We met with Anna in the most gorgeous setting, sat right in the middle of Spitzkoppe. It was like sitting in another planet. It was absolutely gorgeous, and to know it was leopard habitat as well. I don't know about you, Nadia. It gave me a bit more of a
leopard habitat, but also those little animals that are related.
Those
to
little
elephants.
rock bunnies.
What are they called? I can't remember what they're called.
I would call them rock bunnies. That's definitely not their name, but that's what they were.
They were basically leopard fodder.
Yeah, leopard food. Yeah. But we met with Anna, and what we wanted to talk to Anna about is, how does a conservancy support a community when we know that community is going through an intense challenge and, as we've heard from Vicky, is being pushed apart, I guess. What is the conservancy's job and how does that manage, and what are the challenges here? So here's Anna to tell us a little bit more.
Okay, I'm the secretary, and working with our people, knowing their needs. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. For this area, what are the needs?
Okay, mostly it's water. Yes, mostly it's water. As you can see, we are in a semi-desert. And so we have not had rain for 12 years. And so it's very dry. And our boreholes are about to dry up.
12 years with no substantial rain?
Mm-hmm.
God, that's a long time.
Yeah. So we have a water problem within our communities. We had EIF sponsoring us with money. And so we put up some solar pumps and for the surrounding farms. And but then the boreholes have started to dry up. Yes. So,
And it's not just as simple as drilling new ones?
It's not simple as drilling new ones because it's very expensive.
Okay.
To drill new boreholes on each of the farms.
So there has to be like one communal one that everybody comes to?
Yes. Because now like in Spitzkoppe, we are 900 inhabitants within Spitzkoppe.
Yeah.
And so we have 2 dams here that provides water, but the one, it's salty water. It's not pure water. So the one dam is for the animals to drink, and then the one is for the community, for the school and the hostels, and then here. But what happens is that once the water comes through here, we purify it for our guests. And so once there's no drinking water for the community, then the investor here lets them take 10 liters a day.
Right.
So every day, once they
come to the campsite?
Yeah, to come to the rest camp, and then they get 10 liters a day.
Yeah. Yes. And so having a rest camp, that's obviously a direct benefit to the community. Mm-hmm. Are there other wider benefits?
It's the rest camp and the lodge. So it's whereby our community benefits from. And the thing is that we are 2 conservancies. The Spitzkoppe Conservancy, and then we have the Tubuses. So we are called the Gqengu Conservancy, as we are 2 conservancies together. The income mostly comes from the Spitzkoppe, and then we have to provide for the Tubuses and for the Spitzkoppe. So we have development committees within our conservancies. They look after the needs of their community members, and then they write letters to the Conservancy saying, okay, we have this needs here. Can you please assist us with this?
So you're in, obviously, this drought period, 12 years, no substantial rain. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've learnt already that wildlife will, disperse out the area. Mm-hmm. So that must make the value of Spitzkoppe even more valuable because it's still bringing people in. Because without wildlife, is there a risk that tourism could not fail, but get lower in the area?
No, the thing is that why our guests come here, even if there is no wild, it's because of, as you can see, the scenery around you, and it's very peaceful here. So I don't think that will...
There's the art, the rock art as well.
Yeah. The rock art is also here. We have Bushman paintings here. So that's why tourism within the Spitzkoppe is picking up very good here.
Okay. One of the things that we have been talking about quite a lot is food security. And I'm just wondering how food security or considering food security for communities comes into Conservancy's remit or decision making.
Okay, the thing is that for now, as we have drought, we have the government provides food for the communities, like in maize meal, fish, and then cooking oil. So what the Conservancy is trying to do now is to see that everyone gets a big yard gardening for them to have nutritious food besides the porridge that the government provides. But as you can see, it's very dry here and we don't have water.
Yeah, so people want to grow.
Yes, we want to grow, but now it's very difficult for us to do that. But we have Orano 2 weeks back brought in food puzzles. And we handed out the food puzzles within the communities. If there is needs, our chairman in the Conservancy and the manager, they write letters to the bigger companies and then they ask for help.
That seems effective.
Yes.
But you said, what was it, the word Orano?
Orano, it was an old mine, a company that was mining. And so now it's a French company, mining company, yes. So they are the ones that does provide food puzzles.
Have they chosen to do that themselves,
yes,
or is that expected of them?
No, it's not expected of them because there is a rock marathon happening every year, September, within the Spitzkoppe. As there is no more funds to do the rock, so they feel that they are obligated to help out Spitzkoppe with food parcels and all that.
I mean, they're not no government doesn't mandate them to do it, but they've chosen to do it.
Yes, they chose.
Which is also a very different example.
It's a very different model
today with another mine that has not done that.
The thing is that what normally happens with our government, they send in people to come mine. But then they don't negotiate the persons that want to come mine, saying, keep in mind, there are people staying there. Can you please look after our people? Because they have needs.
Yeah,
so our government, the Ministries of Mine doesn't do that. And so whenever the Conservancy finds out, okay, there is a mine, and you go to them and ask them, then they will just push you away from ears. Right. But now we have solar companies coming in, whereby the Conservancy and the solar companies are sitting, and then we are negotiating on if we, the Conservancy, give them a consent letter. Okay, we have water problems within our community, so can you please assist there?
And you can do your business.
Yes, that's how we, the Conservancy, does the negotiations with the solar companies that's coming in now.
Is that a business? Is that solar? Is that an area that's increasing?
Yes.
But because solar is not mining, the Conservancy, I guess, complex can more easily build up a relationship with solar companies than mining companies because the mining part of the government is separate.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But still, they need a once they see a place that they want to mine, they have to come to get a consent letter. They have to come to the traditional authorities and to the Conservancy. So we look into it. We have different zones. We have breeding zones, and then we have the business areas also. But once we see, no, that's a breeding zone, then we say, no, you can't do mining there. It's for our wild to grow and to breed there.
No, nice, okay. And is that usually stuck by...
But then, but then they do it back door. So then they do it back door.
Anyway.
Yes.
It's such a shame because what you said there at the beginning is so like, oh, good, so you've got these, but then it's like, does it happen? It's like, not all the time.
No. There's so often, same in the UK.
Yeah.
There are systems in place to protect resources, manage land, but if you've got enough money, there's always a way around.
Yes, no, it is.
I think this is why, what sometimes can be effective is more people using their voice and going no. But that's quite hard to get enough people to make a noise.
Yeah, no, it is.
With the community, so you said there's two conservancies, you've got Spitzkoppe
Conservancy. Yes, and the Tubuses.
And that makes up the Ngangu.
The Ngangu Conservancy.
You say that well.
I say it better. It's taken me a while. It's taken me a while, Anna.
I can't.
Okay.
I'll try one more time. I've got a dry mouth as well.
Okay, yeah.
Ngangu.
Ngangu, yes.
Okay. The community within, or the two communities then, how's the general feeling with the Conservancy? Are they... Obviously, the need of water is so strong and such a basic need as well. But how do they feel kind of the Conservancy is working for them, or what challenges do they think that kind of they need to be?
Okay, the thing is that, every time when we have our AGM, the annual general meetings, so we do get applause on what we do. Because we are trying our best to provide for our communities. So once it comes to water, that's the first thing that we do. So we get applaud for that. But it's a bit difficult as we don't have water. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's such a...
It's how do you move on when you can't get that right?
We are busy. We want to negotiate with Name Water. The water is their responsibility within our area. So now we will be having a meeting with them so that we can sit and talk on how we can help one another. Okay. To provide water.
So they're a water company?
Yes, it's the water company, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's just such a... Because of today, I'm not going to look at water in the same way when I go home. Yeah. Because I've spoken to people today that have such a strong need and you can feel it from them. Yeah, no, it's a big problem within us as it's very dry here and so we do need water.
Yeah. Do you hope... I mean, is there any way of providing water also for like wildlife at any point? You mentioned there's a dam, that's one for livestock.
Yes.
But like, obviously, we're not going to get rains back as regularly as they were once.
Yeah.
But do you feel like the wildlife is just gone now and it might not come back?
Yes, I don't think wildlife will be coming back because we don't have rain.
Yeah.
Because what we do is we have zebras and springboks at the lodge side, It was donated by the film they were playing, 10,000 Before Christ, was filmed here. And then they left some springboks and zebras for the communities. And so what the management did at the lodge is they put up some pools. They built some water pools. And so they are every morning they pour in water there for the zebras and springboks to have some water.
So they stay close to
yes.
it. We've said you the whole time, someone must have filmed something here.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
Mad Max 1 and 2 was also filmed here. Monster Hunter was also filmed here.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that film. Starting to make sense.
Oh my God. I feel like I've seen bits of Star Wars. Maybe not, but
Yeah.
it's very much inspired by this kind of like
Yeah.
magical landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to say about the Conservancy that we haven't asked or brought out of you?
Okay, the thing is that the Tengu Conservancy, in the previous years, they couldn't provide for the needs for our communities. But now the new Conservancy management that's here is seriously looking after our communities. And yeah, we do see changes. There is a lot of changes. And so with a lot of help, I think we can do much better.
That's good.
I'm so
That's-
glad you're in the
that's-
job you're
yeah.
in. I'm so glad it's you doing it. No wonder they voted for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and just thank you so much. I can imagine. I mean, obviously to balance both jobs, but also like Nadia said, like thank you for being in your role. And it's so nice to hear that the community are being served. And I guess this takes time as well. This is not a quick 1 year difference. This is you try a couple of things, and keep rolling around.
Yeah. But yeah, if we can provide water for everyone, that would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we turn it off, can you say the name of that animal? So I've got it on record so I can...
Rogdasi.
Rogdasi.
You've got to be able to roll your R's here. You've got to be able
Rogdasi.
to roll your R's. Thank you so much.
Oh, Anna was lovely.
Yeah, lovely to sit with her.
That
Again,
was
in
one
most
of the
picturesque-
hottest days I remember interviewing.
So hot. It was so hot.
Yeah.
And I'm a ginger lad.
That was a hottie.
Is that right, calling myself a lad?
I think so, but I'm glad you checked.
Did I get away with that?
Yeah. Yeah, so really interesting point, the practical responses to community needs in a landscape that is going through drought. The Conservancy there providing a democratic structure and a framework so that the community has a legitimate and powerful voice in the face of mining companies, in the face of government, in the face of bringing the community's needs together. Really interesting that, solar companies are increasingly getting involved and they're able to step in. All conservancies are different. We have heard from other conservancies in this podcast series and other interviews that we've had with people from different conservancies where they sit on is it the board? It's the board.
The committee.
The committee, that's it, sorry. Where actually it's either I had the wool pulled over my eyes or genuinely the Conservancy committees are powerfully putting forward the voices of the needs of the community and are serving. There was the one where, I can't remember which Conservancy was now, but talking about at Christmas, all of older people get a Christmas package. And,
it was in Angu as well. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. And just this kind of community response to, in the face of drought, in the face of climate change, and in the face of corporations coming in and taking resource from the community's land, there was a recognition that actually this land does belong to the community, and the Conservancy, can do some great stuff. And actually, that example of the tourist area that we were, because it's stunning, the fact that local people can each come and get 10 litres of water from
that area,
from the tourist area as well, so that it has to benefit, the funding.
They're not pushed aside. They're not pushed aside.
But the money has to go back into the immediate community, which we saw.
I just want to, speaking to the nerds listening now, I know this series has been, because I've spoken to many of you, and many of you have shared lovely things online and with us personally in DMs and in emails. I know this series has been quite an emotional one to listen to, and we knew that going in. Nadia and I said right at the beginning that, we've got you with this. We've got your hands. Some of you might need to listen to it in bits or come back to it because it is emotional. It's not easy to kind of tackle. And we did on episode 1, we said we'll give you 30 seconds to just sit and think about how you feel about the climate crisis, where you sit with it, kind of mentally, what your motivations are, what your hopes are. And then we said at the end, on episode 4, we'll give you another 30 seconds. So once you've listened to the perspectives of people living in rural Namibia, once you've listened to them, I want you to revisit and see how you feel. So we're going to give you those 30 seconds now. So just give yourself some time, sit down, close your eyes, meditate, do what you need to do, and just think about how you feel about the climate crisis after you've heard from these people in these 4 episodes. So I hope that was beautiful for you. And like I said, we're still here. We've got a little bit more to chat about. But it's always good to revisit how you feel and how things change. On that note, I feel like it's time to do my summary here, because I feel like it's important for us both to summarise how we feel after this trip and doing this series. Yeah. Do you mind if I go ahead?
I'd love to hear what your takeaway is.
Okay. Previous to this, I had been to Namibia before. Naively, I thought this trip in some form would be very similar to my others, but at least in terms of like the environment and my copings with it, but it really wasn't. This one was hard, physically and emotionally hard. Like seeing areas I had walked before completely different to how they were just 18 months previously punched me right in the gut. Like trees dead, air dry, wildlife gone elsewhere, the feeling of desperation from the people we met. Each night I sat with you, Nadia, and we looked at each other around the fire and said, what the fuck? Like, what's going to happen? We spent every day with people, hearing people say, and these are people that only have a handful of options available, right? Say that they remain hopeful. Yet every evening, every day since my return, hope has been something I've really struggled to hold on to. For them, for wildlife, for trees, for us. Every flush of my toilet gives me a shudder now. Every daffodil blooming in January instead of March has made my heart race. Like, I guess what I'm saying is this shit is going to stay with me for a very long time. Like, I may be back from Namibia and in my own country, but that country, that land, that people and their needs have all stayed with me. But I say this a lot, it's not really about me. I guess on this show, Nadia and I always make a point of giving our personal feelings and perspective, but it's not just about me. The people of Namibia are strong as fuck. In their hope, I have belief, I have confidence, because in England, where we absorb all this global shit, like, hey, more bombs have gone off, hey, there's fires again, lol, hey, floods in this city, killed 300, etc, etc, etc. It gets beyond hard to go, nah, lads, don't worry about it, it's all going to be grand. But the people Nadia and I met, Maxi, Mona Lisa, Wapuandwa, Joseph, Mimi, Vicky and Anna, showed me something. They showed me this sense of calm, I guess. This sense of strength. This sense of hope and belief that they can adapt and fight. It's a feeling that's kind of, I guess, contagious when you're around it. Because, to be fair, they're right. Them and their communities are still there. During all the hardships they've had, during the 12 years with no rain, they're still there standing strong. So coming back to England with bullshit rules, barriers and Yorkshire puddings, I've taken their mindset with me. Community, love, support and hope. Those 4 things that I can have and give will keep me strong and keep me going. And I know it feels weird to think that those 4 things have got anything to do with wildlife and conservation and nature, but they truly, truly have. I owe Namibia for that. I owe Maxi, Mona Lisa, Wapuandwa, Joseph, Mimi Vicky and Anna for that. Are you crying? Those are my feelings.
They're really nice
and thoughts.
Feelings. Thank
and
you
musings.
for sharing them.
You're welcome. How about you?
Well, it's not as powerful as that. But see, I'm glad that you were able to share that gift of your feelings.
Thank you.
I echo so much of that, and gratitude to the people that we met and shared their stories so willingly and openly. I think my takeaway is a simple one. My takeaway is a simple message that's also an instruction. This is a handful of stories from a country and a land that I didn't know previous. It has allowed me to shift my perspectives on things. The power of listening to people and understanding what the human experience is like for people other than yourself is so vital today. And that's so much understood in the context of social justice work. It's understood, people understand that in order to get race equality or equality in other areas, it's like we need to listen and understand people. But in nature and conservation, in thinking about our environmental problems, people that work in this sector, you've got to start listening to people's stories and allowing it to move you as much as wildlife moves you. And I think this is just a handful of stories, and we've been able to try as we might to share something from it. But there are billions of stories out there, and billions of lands and countries and experiences and communities and cultures. And I find that, that extraordinary, the gift of being able to open that door and allow those stories and these experiences to change me. And I think there can never be enough of doing that for anybody. There's never enough of being inquiring. And even if that means your community, your geographical community who lives on your street, who is it? Why are they using slug killer? Meeting people where they're at, listening to life's experiences, I think it's so powerfully profound and overlooked in this sector. And that's why communities are important to us. I think I'm moved by the size of these stories that we've heard, but how tiny it is compared to the world of stories that is out there.
Yeah, very, very true and very, very well put. We have some, I guess, good news to share.
Yeah.
And we've sat on this.
We've sat like a brooding osprey.
Honestly, this has been the hardest thing to sit on whilst doing this show. We found this out just after we released episode 1.
Yeah.
And we haven't said it because we had to deliver. So it's been, honestly, it's not been the hardest thing, but it has been quite hard to
I just want to say it each time.
Yeah, we wanted to tell you, but we was like, no, we got to wait until the end.
Ryan,
the rule was you guys had to go on this journey with us, and we had to put you through, respectfully, the journey Nadia and I went on. So you've gone on all this. Mimi Vicky messaged me, as did Maxi and a guy called Neville Hendricks, some of the guys I keep in touch with in Namibia. Some of the most beautiful photos and some of the most beautiful videos that I cried over of so much rain that this year came to Namibia. I'm getting goosebumps as I said that.
I start crying.
Yes, it was so much rain. We will be sharing the videos and putting them on a reel on our social media. So head over to Into the Wild podcast on Instagram and Into the Wild Pod on Blue Sky. We'll be sharing those videos. Vicky sent me videos of the rivers forming. There's been so much. And now the photos 4 weeks later of the greenery that has come back, the grass,
and
the
you
trees.
Don't see this. Like, people don't, this isn't reported on. 12 years, no rain, completely destroyed ecosystem pretty much.
Yeah.
Destroyed communities, it's torn people apart. People have been surviving on government handouts. There's no outlet for seeing this, but because obviously we know people on the ground, we've got these pictures and images. I lamented so much about these trees. I was like, the trees are going to be dead. The trees will not bounce. Fair dues, the grasses will. The grasses will come back. But the trees have burst into life.
But it's just stunning. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Vicky, Maxi and Neville for always sending me photos and pictures of that. It really keeps me connected to you guys out there, and I love it. And to everyone listening that you've gone on that journey, just, it's not problem solved. It's not, that's the end of everything forever. But God, what a gasp of air and breath these people can take to say, wildlife is going to boom.
Oh, it's going to go.
It really will. It is going to boom.
We should just go back now.
I know. No, I've got so much. I can get the money from somewhere. So I just share that good news. Like I said, head over to our social media if you want to see the visual impact of what I'm talking about. But the rain came this year. I hope it reached everywhere in Namibia. I know certain areas got way more than others and some areas got drops, but certainly for the people that we met on this trip and we engaged with, got rain, and it made me so happy. I spoke to Mona Lisa on email and she said she had the rain and they feel blessed and are celebrating. I know Siegfried, who did our translations for Joseph and Wakwanda, I said, did the rain come to you? And he said, yes, we've got the rain and we're still hoping for a bit more. Not as much as we hoped, but we got some. And obviously Vicky just sent me the photos and the videos, which, you know, I didn't even have to ask. So yeah, it's just incredible news. And to go on this journey, I think it feels like a film at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like it happened. So it was really, really wonderful. Nerds, that closes the book on Journey Back to Namibia. I want to thank you, all of you, for listening, for sharing, for downloading and engaging and hearing these stories. And like Nadia said, there are billions of these stories around the world that are as important to hear. It's, like we said, been an emotional one, but it's been a pleasure. And I hope you guys have really taken from it, and you've been okay through it as well. Like we've said a couple of times, it is an emotional thing to go through. But what a way to end it as well, with some rain coming back. We couldn't get better than that. We will be back every week with Nature News, where Nadia and I share stories from around the world to do with environmentalism, nature, conservation, wildlife, community. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. If you would love to give us a review on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'm pretty sure that's the only places you can give us a review. Please do. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Always feel free to DM us on social media or give us an email. All the links you need are in the write-up of this episode. And if you ever have any spare money that you would like to throw towards your favourite nature, wildlife and conservation podcast, you can do so at coffee.com/Into the Wild Pod. Like we said, everything you need to keep in touch with us and support Into the Wild is in the write-up of every single episode. So just scroll down, have a read, and you'll find the right links. But like I said, thanks again for joining us on this trip. It's been a pleasure, isn't it?
It's been lovely.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you on Nature News.
Bye.